without a doubt, the role of being a parent is very, very difficult, especially in this day and age. But would you say that there needs to be a difference in the way that you would raise your daughter as opposed to the way that you raise your son? Well, this is a controversy that we see that happening in the next video that we are about to look at today. So let's view the video and see what we can glean from the conversation that's had here.
Steve, I've been with my husband for about 19 years, and we have 2 children together. He's the disciplinary in the household. However, at times when he's going in on our boys, I'll chime in because I feel like he's being a little too rough on them. He feels like I'm making them soft. How should I respond to this, or how should I act in the situations when he's disciplining our boys?
Well, you don't have to agree with everything he does, but why don't you just stay out the way? I mean, and I'm not being sexist, but listen to this. Why did you marry your husband?
Because I love him.
Is he the man of your dreams?
Yes, he is.
Is he the man you hope your sons will grow up to be?
Yes.
So why would you stop him from raising them into that?
I'm not stopping him. I'm not.
So there, of course, being the advocate of manhood that Mr. Harvey is, he zeroes in on the concerns of this mother. And really what he wants her to do is to think about some of the choices that she's made in relation to some of the choices that she's making with regard to her sons. Now, she made the choice to marry a man. And in her own estimation, this is the man of her dreams. This is the individual who she chose to spend the rest of her life with. Evidently, he has some good character. Evidently, there is something about him and his personality that draws her. And so why not allow him to pass that on, that legacy of manhood? Why not allow him to pass that on to his sons? That's a good question. Let's keep going.
Stopping him, I just feel at times he's a bit harsh with the punishments.
He is hard on them because they boys. Undisciplined boys grow up to be undisciplined men. Do you know the problem you're going to have?
Yes.
Undisciplined men end up in the hospital or in a prison, or they end up in a grave. That's what happens to undisciplined men. I got 4 daughters and 3 sons. I have raised my sons entirely different than I raised them girls, because I had to, because of the different set of expectations on the boys. Now, do I want my girls to be successful? Yes. Do I want them to get equal pay? Yes. Do I want them to be treated fairly? Yes. Do I let men run over them? Ain't no way. I've raised my daughters to be strong, independent, and all of that. All my girls got college degrees. But them sons of mine, and they mothers know, let me have these boys. I ain't over here trying to turn the girls into women, because I don't know how. I know nothing. But I know about these boys, and I know what it takes to be a man, so I got them. Now, my wife has told me, you too hard on them boys.
That's what I think he is. He's too hard. But they play us against each other now. So they know mom is more laid back, dad is more strict. So they play the role of, if my husband's yelling at him, my 11-year-old will say, well, mama said I could do it.
And why do you think he does that? Because mama said.
He's playing us, but he's...
Okay, now we're going to pause once again. The rhetoric that we just heard from Mr. Harvey. Now, a lot of things that he says I don't agree with, I must admit. But this particular line of reasoning is excellent in my opinion. The way that you raise your daughters has to be different from the way that you raise your boys, because there is an entirely different expectation when it comes to your boys. Because if you look at what Mr. Harvey said in totality, you are preparing your boys to be leaders of a household. You're preparing your boys to shoulder the responsibility that comes with protecting and providing and teaching a family. So there's a totally different realm of expectations that exists for the boys as opposed to the girls. So it's not that one is better than the other. That's not what's being said here. what's said is there are different expectations for each group. And so what you would do if you were wise, you would allow an individual who is a man to help raise men, and you would allow an individual who is a woman to raise women. See? Because each one is familiar with the challenges and the difficulties that come along with being a part of their gender. Like he mentioned, he doesn't pretend to know how to raise a woman or a girl into a woman. He knows about manhood. He knows about what's entailed in that. He knows about the difficulties and the struggles and all of the highs and lows of becoming a man that's respected. And so he can teach them that. He can pass on, as I mentioned, that legacy of manhood that can result in a very, very positive and very fulfilling life for his sons. He may be harsh right now because, as he mentioned, young boys need discipline. They need structure. And that structure and that discipline will help them on into their lives. There'll be things that won't elicit a reaction from them because they've been disciplined not to react in emotion. They've been taught to be logical, to be reasonable. And in teaching them that, now you're teaching them to be productive. You're teaching them to be of benefit to those around them. Let's keep going.
Steve, and it's
Because
I don't know.
kids are manipulative.
Yes.
They are master manipulators. They don't mean no harm. They just doing what they can do. Kids are slick. Now they playing y'all against one another. Marjorie and I came to a conclusion. When the girls come in there and ask me something, or the boys come in there and I know that I got a feeling they've been upstairs, I say, go ask your mama. When they go and ask her, they say, go ask your father. Now they go, well, I already asked mama. Well, what did she say? And whatever she said upstairs, I go along with that. Now, if we disagree, Marjorie and I, our kids are older now. Marjorie and I never allowed them to see us disagree in front of them. You can disagree with your husband, you just can't do it in front of the boys. Because once they see it in front of each other, then they got you. And here they come, because you done stepped in too many times. So, have you picked up anything?
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much. Let your husband raise them boys. You might mess around and have two fine young men like the one you married.
So for the closing thoughts, I think that the rhetoric that Mr. Harvey brought forth in this particular video was spot on. I thought, as I mentioned, that it was excellent because when you look at the ideals that he brought forth to this mother, it was apparent that he was speaking from his own personal experience. He was highlighting how successful he and his wife were with dealing with this particular subject. But I think above all, what he highlighted really was logical, because if you think about it, the individual that is most qualified to raise a young girl into a woman would be a mature woman. And then on the same hand, the individual that would be most qualified to raise a boy into a respected man is another respected man. And so because of the fact that they are aware of the different difficulties, the problems that arise because of a certain gender, then they can prepare their children for those difficulties. So especially when it comes to the boys, it's not necessarily a situation where fathers are harsh or they're demanding, but what they're doing is trying to provide structure so that when those boys get out into the world, they can be productive. Because there is most definitely going to be certain expectations placed on them by society. And the way that a father chooses to raise his son should reflect his awareness of those expectations. So you're preparing your son. So when he goes out into the world, he's not caught off guard by the things that he's expected to do. Yes, he's expected to be a provider, a protector, and a teacher. He's expected to do all those things because that's what manhood truly means. It means that you take on all of the roles that are necessary for you to be productive and to go forward and move in a positive direction if you decide that you want to have a family. And so what Mr. Harvey is saying is that in this particular case, the husband is trying to do just that. He's trying to pass on that legacy of manhood so that when his mother, or when the children's mother, I should say, when they look on how her sons are doing in the future, she can look on with pride because they're behaving in the way that befits the way that their father taught them to be. And so that's a powerful thing. You can't teach someone to be successful if you've never been. You can't teach an individual a trade if that's not your profession. And so it's the same thing with this. Fathers teaching their sons to be men is necessary. It's needed because the next generation is a direct reflection of the training that they received from the prior generation. And so a father who takes it upon himself to give as much structure and discipline to his sons as he possibly can will be proud of those very same sons in the future. Well, as always, we thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Be easy.